everybody. It's been a whole year since we have started the Witching Hours. Halloween is the first episode. And here we are again with some special guests. We have Michael Myers, Jason, and me and Lynn. No, we have RVA Paranormal back. And last time we just had John on, but now we have his lovely significant other as well, Lynn, here with us. So welcome in, RVA Paranormal. Welcome back. Our Halloween special. Welcome in people in the chat. Hey, Salty and Keisha. All right. We're excited to have them back. They have sent us a plethora of fantastic, wonderful, fascinating EVPs, which we will remind you all what those are in a little bit. But first, it's time for the paranormal news.
Are in our universe, an M dwarf would most likely not be able to handle nearby planets that could host life. That's according to a new study published by the astrophysical journal Letters. And in studying a planet orbiting an M dwarf 66 light years from Earth, researchers found no indication that the star could hold onto an atmosphere at all. The finding proved disappointing since scientists had been hoping the star would be able to host planets with atmospheres potentially rich with carbon, perfect for the creation of life. Since carbon molecules are considered the building blocks of life, a planet without them is unlikely to be hospitable to living things. In a statement, a planetary scientist said the findings don't bode well for other types of planets orbiting M-class dwarves.
Boo.
So, of course, I guess that leaves things open for like silicon-based life forms and stuff like that. But still, planets without atmosphere is not the number one place you're going to go looking for alien life, probably. And that's a big amount of stars that are out there. So if they can't have atmospheres, that's not good. Story number 2, Arizona cryonics facility preserves bodies to revive later. So I don't know. I think we used to hear more about like cryonic facilities like back in the 90s and stuff. I felt like that was kind of a big topic, something I hadn't heard about a lot lately. So time and death are on pause for some people in Scottsdale, Arizona. Inside, tanks filled with liquid nitrogen are the bodies and heads of 199 humans who opted to be cryopreserved in hopes of being revived in the future when science has advanced beyond what it is capable of today. Many of the patients, as Alcor Life Extension Foundation calls them, were terminally ill with cancer, ALS, or other diseases with no present-day cure.
Heads.
Yep.
What do they think they're going to do with the heads afterwards? Later on.
well, their hope is that once technology gets to a certain point, they can be able to bring them back to life, preserve the bodies, so that crystals don't form in the bloodstreams that damage tissues and organs. And so once technology is able to get to a certain point, they can refill their body with fluids, like basically like think of making like fake blood and stuff like that, and be able to cure the bodies of those diseases so they can continue their lives.
Me and Lynn are making the same faces here.
I would be really pissed if I paid for that service.
Ew.
Yeah. The minimum cost for having your body stored there is $200,000 for a body, $80,000 for the brain.
Well, I guess you get a discount if it's just a head.
Man, I guess the brain would work, and then you could, I don't know, maybe just choose some kind of like cybernetic body or something, you know?
If you don't come back to life, you get your money back?
Yeah.
Who does? Somebody.
Yeah, like I could get my brain cryogenically frozen for 80,000, and then I can get like a robot to put it in that looks like Henry Cavill or something, and then we'll be good to go.
Okay.
Saw that on drama.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was okay. And then sadly, sad news for the last news story. This happened just recently in South Korea. In the Halloween holiday there, 120 people were killed, hundreds of others injured. A death toll jumped from 59 to 120 within the last hour of the time of this reporting. Videos from Seoul district showed body bags on the streets, emergency workers performing CPR after basically Halloween revelers ended up trampling other people. There were over 100,000 people in the area celebrating the first outdoor no-mask Halloween since the pandemic had started.
Oh my goodness.
Evidently, the streets were kind of narrow. There were, like I said, 100,000 people, like basically in alleyways and stuff like that. People started becoming kind of the crowd. The people who saw it said this. The crowd started coming kind of distraught, and people were pushing and shoving, and then it just turned into a very sad scene there. So
Wow. Where was that
Halloween.
again?
That was in Seoul, South Korea.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
First time they had kind of had the chance to get out since the pandemic for Halloween.
Wow. Did not end
Tighter
well.
restrictions and stuff there, and it was the main story actually on BBC today when I was looking for news articles. So we don't normally talk about the regular news on here, but I thought it was really sad, and the fact that it had to deal with Halloween, I figured could make our weird news here. So that was the news for today.
I feel like you could have put that one in the middle or something. We could have laughed about heads. Instead, we have to be sad and start the
About
EVPs.
half the universe with no existing life, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a little laughter in the middle.
Heads in jars. Little Wing said the death toll is at 154 now.
154 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Salty said nope to being frozen. I agree.
No.
Okay, so RVA Paranormal.
hey,
Hey,
Yeah. We have an extra one this time.
Yeah.
I brought my wife. She couldn't come on the last show, and then she said she wasn't going to miss this one. So,
Good. We're glad you're here.
Hey,
So
Well, let me read. I have the bio from last
Okay.
time. So let me go over that just so everybody knows what's going on.
yes, read the
John
bio.
and Lynn Harris, they founded RVA Paranormal in 2017. They're a husband and wife paranormal team who had common paranormal experiences when they first met and realized they shared a mutual interest in paranormal investigation. Dedicated to doing what they love and sharing with the paranormal community, they set out to share the locations and evidence they captured. They blend their skill sets to apply to various techniques, and unique approaches when exploring the paranormal. In 2009, they started Piercing the Veil, a weekly live stream. They invite special guests, investigators, and share their love of the paranormal and live stream their investigations on location. They are joined now by the 18-year-old daughter, Kristen. RVA Paranormal continues to pursue their love of paranormal investigating as a family. John, Lynn, and Kristen have recently joined the Twisted Realm as members of the crew, as well as Haunted Nights Paranormal event staff. We had John on before, so we had a great show, and we are happy to welcome back RVA Paranormal and John and Lynn.
Yay.
So thanks for coming back on with us. You know, we had a great show last time, and I was like, man, let's do something for Halloween, because everyone was kind of enjoying the spooky show that time. So here we are. I'm glad you guys can make it.
I appreciate it. Yes, the season. This is our busy time. I mean, Halloween, everybody, wants to get out and do ghost hunt, paranormal, and
this weekend was no different.
oh man, we just got back from a road trip this weekend where we stayed up till 2 a.m. for Friday and Saturday, and then drove back home 4 hours and got here and crashed for a little bit, and then hey, here we are.
Back at
Reset
it.
and ready.
So tell us where you went over the weekend.
So a cool little location in a small town in Virginia called Wytheville. It's over about, I'd say probably an hour and a half or so from Bristol. It's originally one of the 5 remaining octagon houses in the United States. This one is on Main Street in Whitwell, 585 Main Street, Whitwell, Virginia. It's called the Octagon Mansion at 585. Our friends there have John Cushman and Debbie Cushman have taken and restored that house. They're still in the process of restoring that house, which was started being built in 1870, finished being built in 1877. Turned it into a fantastic museum. Host a very unique event called Dinner with a Ghost, where you get to come in and enjoy a 4-course meal with the spirits of the house.
That sounds cool.
Lots of food.
Lots of food. And then after they feed you like meat and potatoes and salad and cheesecake, they're like, great, now we're going to investigate for fun.
And try to stay awake.
And try to stay awake.
Yeah.
It's always a unique location. The history of the house, I forgot how much stuff he said he had, spans from the Revolutionary War all the way up through World War II. He covers everything that he can possibly cover. It's a private collection that he brought with him from Las Vegas when he moved out here. And John Cushman has a unique history himself. He was the Forrest Gump of the 70s. He actually ran across the United States for,
Wow.
I think it was the March of Dimes. So he was, he's been on a couple TV shows actually back in the 70s, kind of highlighting his jog across America.
The real life Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and he's somewhat involved with bringing Goldvein to the forefront. He used to do the Ghost out in Las Vegas, and we got out to Goldvein and brought some attention out there and did that. So it's a very unique location. He's a very unique individual.
That sounds cool. So what kind of paranormal things happened while you were at the Octagon Mansion? You hinted that it was a lot of things.
It was. It was.
Nick's got a new boyfriend.
I know. It started off. This was I think a first. So when we do the events, like I was stationed in what's called the Reverend's Library. It was not the Reverend that was there, but we did. When you do these things, you don't know who you're interacting with, right? And you try to figure out. But it's not very common that you actually get a name, but this time we did. So it started off though, it was kind of quiet or whatever. But then I bent over, I leaned over to get something out of my case, and all the equipment started going off. So I just made a joke. I said, "I like it when I bend over," and it just went downhill. It was just off the charts after that. So the spirit was like interacting with joking, with laughing, with a lot of flirtation, and it was funny and then John came in, and it picked up even more. And that was the theme actually throughout the night, Friday night and Saturday night. It was feeding off of our, I don't know if it's us being a couple or our energy, but it was definitely, and there were multiple energies. It wasn't just one person. We actually did get a name, but it was flirtation. So I started saying, instead of dinner with a ghost, I'm gonna have a date with a ghost, and all the but it was manipulating our radios on command. And it would only happen in that room, nowhere else.
Wow.
It was, and then I'll let you tell the fantastic, the one that we just went.
The head turn.
The one we're like, what just happened?
One of the things that we always try to do, and of course, this was a public event that we did with Haunted Nights Paranormal Events. So this actually occurred during one of the rotations between groups. And me and Lynn always believe that when you go into these locations, your energy has a lot to do with the activity that comes. If you're free-spirited, lighthearted, and happy, then you are rewarded for that. If you come in with pessimism, negative energy, then you reap what you sow.
Closed off.
Yeah.
People if you're just closed off. You can be quiet, but if you're like shut down, that'll interfere too.
Yeah, but we were in the what would have been the original dining room of the house in the
Right.
70s, and we believe it was converted to the library of Reverend Snow, who built the house and is believed to be one of the spirits there. we had a break during one of the rotations where nobody was in that area. So me and Lynn, we had some good activity there. Me and Lynn went back, and we're just sitting there kind of talking and interacting with the spirit in that room. Lynn was sitting in a chair on one side of the room, and I was sitting in a chair in the other. And it was one of those old lamps that had the little knob on it. You have to click it.
You have to turn the switch.
Like click, click to turn it on and off. It wasn't a push button or a touch. And we were just sitting there, and we had a REM pod on the desk, and a REM pod is actually a proximity detector that we use, and what we call a paranormal music box, which also is a motion activated music box.
This is the original, I think.
That uses thermal as well as shadow detection, and when it detects that, it'll start playing a little tune.
That's cool.
The REM pod went off, the music box went off, and then the lamp on the table next to Lynn, we heard it click and it cut on.
Whoa.
The knob activated.
And I stood up and went,
And the lamp. And it was weird because, you're sitting in the dark, and all of a sudden you're not sitting in the dark. Lynn jumps up out of the chair and's like, what's going on? And I'm looking at her, and it took like 5 seconds for me to process that lamp just cut on by itself.
By
and
itself.
I heard it click.
Wow.
yeah, it was funny because, I mean, you're like you said, you're sitting there in the dark, and it first thing in your head is like someone must have snuck in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, wait a minute, it's right here beside me. Because a light, right, is normal for us, right, to have a light on. But it was so funny when it clicked on. And when you play it back on the recording, you can hear the light switch go click.
Along with some other
Long choice for words.
words that I threw out there. And it's just like anything else. When you're sitting in a room and somebody walks in the room and turns the light on, you immediately turn around to say, hey, who turned the lamp? And I did just that. I was like, who turned the lamp on? The lamp turned on by itself.
It was wild. Yeah, it was freaky because like I said, I jumped up and I looked at it. Like you said, we're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
The light just came on.
It's one of those things that was just like, it was so cool. It's like seeing a door open on its own, or an apparition walk across, and your brain tries to process it, and then finally it clicks. It's like, wait a minute, we're paranormal investigators. That's not right. That's not right.
But that was kind of like the theme the whole weekend. Like I said, it was, we really feel like we were dealing with multiple energies there. The assistant, that's what started it, was the Reverend's business associate that you were looking up. That's kind of what started. We got his name. He said, I'm Crush. And because his name was Mr. Crush.
That would have been a good EVP to play tonight. If it hadn't happened last night, I'd have seen it.
Yeah.
You haven't had time to go through all that stuff.
But yeah, it was funny because that was the whole thing. Like, but it started manipulating equipment on command, and we would ask it. And then in that same area, we had at the end last night. There was he was a child, probably 14, maybe, I don't know. He was sitting there, but I kept every time I look over at him. There's twice I look over, and just wanted to shake my head, and I was like, okay, I saw a man stand behind him, and my first thought is, okay, I don't know, somebody from the event, walked. But then the kid, before I said anything, he stood up. He goes, somebody's behind me.
Wow.
And I said, yep. I said, I just saw him. And then what we asked, we said, were you out there in the hallway just now? And it was almost like the same thing. It was just a rush of all this energy. Everybody felt this cold chill come through the room. All the equipment went off. And at the end, we were asking, since everybody was hoping that they could see the light turn on, right? Or something happened. Yeah. And we did. The cord, right, to the speaker. The speaker sitting beside me for like the longest time. It's the one I used to play back EVPs. And John's like, he was facing away from me, and he goes, did that cord just move? And I kind of saw it, right? And then we were like, did you do that? And boom, the cord just dropped off the floor, or dropped down the floor. But, and at the end, though, when we had both REM pods, we were like, we're talking about energy, how they can use that. The REM pods were just going off back and forth with each other. It was like almost like a little musical dance there. And it was like he or she was trying to gain all this energy. And at the end, when we were packing up, we didn't notice this until we were picking everything up. But they did do something. A picture had fallen over on the desk where nothing was around it. Nobody touched that area. There was no equipment there. There was nothing that could have knocked it over. So, but that was like the whole weekend. I was on command. There was a lot of joking. They loved jokes. They didn't like John's jokes.
Did not like that joke.
His jokes were bad. But when there was a funny one, the equipment would go off. That was what was so funny. But, and then when we started talking about jealousy.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about jealousy. that's when, and everybody could feel like the energy shift. And I said, I think this is a woman now. Because we said, Mrs. Crush is here. She's mad that her husband's with me.
My wife of 24 years.
So we had this fun with that about, flirting around and the jealousy. And then there was, I don't know, there was something dynamics playing off the two of us. And I think it was new for us, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole, it was really stronger if both of us were in the room, which was, it's happened on occasion, but that one was pretty different. It was neat. It was
Sounds
fun.
like a really.
I get excited when stuff like that happens. Like you talking about geeking out, that's not like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was a very eventful weekend.
We try to make them all the time.
So we're
But
gonna.
that place is known for poltergeist activity. So.
Oh, okay.
And, that makes me think, something about this. You were talking about, the light turning on, you just kind of turn around and be like, hey, who turned on the light? And I think that's one of the things for people who haven't had these kind of experiences before, or don't think they've had these kind of experiences before. I've noticed just with myself, it can be very easy. I think like the human mind sometimes just logically kind of skims over it. Like it's like a glitch in the matrix or something. And they're just like, oh, I don't know what happened there. And unless you actually, I think for me at least, sometimes take that moment to go, how did that actually happen? Then that's when it's like, when it clicks and you go, oh man, there's something going on here.
And it was very residual in nature. I mean, I really think that what we were experiencing at that particular time, even though we were intelligently interacting with something there at that moment, I believe that it could have just actually been a mixed in residual energy, because it seemed like it was late. It was a Saturday. If it was a reverend, he's got to, I got to be at church first thing in the morning. Yeah. And I mean, we're in his office on a Saturday night. He might have been in there writing a sermon. And the odd thing is like I said, the REM pod went off at the desk. The music box went off as if someone had walked away from the desk and was leaving the room. And then the light turned on. And I really do believe that, and then it just went silent. Like the activity just went and was done.
Until next round.
But, and I tell people all the time, it's just things like that. I was like, I believe that lamp would have turned on whether we were there or not. And it was just a matter of that we were in the right place at the right time to actually capture that event. But if you had left that room and had turned that lamp off and came back an hour later and that lamp was on, you would have probably just gone, did I leave the light on?
Yeah.
I thought I turned it off. And you turned it off and wouldn't even think about it. So we tell people all the time, it's like, keep an open mind about these things. If you believe that you turned the light off or shut a door, there's a good possibility that you did just that, and that you have experienced something or witnessed something paranormal.
But the only flip side, we did start asking. John did ask who turned that light on when we had the next round in, and this male voice. It was very clear on the reporter. He said, "I did."
Oh wow.
So they did acknowledge that, and then later we did have some intelligent spirits there, because going back to the joking, John said at the end, he's like, "Who do you like better, me or Lynn?" And of course it's the kid in the room. He was laughing. He goes, "John," or whatever. But then right behind him, there was a voice on it was male, female. It said, "Ooh, awkward." It was responding to us going, "So awkward." It was the way it said it too. It had a little twist. It goes, "So awkward." So I think there could have been a mixture of residual and intelligent there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was fun.
Well, that sounds very interesting.
Exciting
sounds like a fun weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Much better than our weekend, which
Yeah.
was spent getting sick and all kinds of stuff. So the good news is it seems like Medium Jenny Lee and I are back on the mend, so we can continue with our regular scheduled programming here.
Yeah.
So after 3 weeks of mess,
There was a
we can be
few
back
good
with
days in
normal.
there somewhere. I've lost them. All right, so we're going to be getting into a whole bunch of EVPs here.
Yep.
So let's remind the viewers, what in the world
Yes.
is an EVP?
The theory behind it, yeah.
You want me to remind him? Okay. Yeah.
Apparently so.
An EVP is it stands for electronic voice phenomenon, and it's one of the key things that people have been doing since the beginning of investigation. Edison messed around with it. actually trying to capture and was successful in capturing voices on recording devices that were unexplained, voices that where there was no one in the room. And there's been very intense study on the phenomenon itself, and what causes it. And I wish I knew. And it's, one of the key things that we like to go in and do. It's still one of the things that we do that blows our mind with every time. That coupled along with some video, I feel like it's the best way that you can collect evidence, especially if you're in a controlled environment, for instance, where it's just like Lynn and I, just the two of us, and we know each other's voices. And that's one of the reasons why our team is just two people, because we want to control these. So electronic voice phenomena comes in two ways. One is the audible voices and responses that you can hear on playback only, that you did not hear during your questions or during your investigation. Much different than an AVP, or an audible voice phenomenon, which is something you capture on the recorder that you did hear, and we're able to hear with your ears, as well as go back and capture it on a recording device. And we've got a couple of those that we've shared in that mix as well.
Which one would you say happens more often?
EVP.
EVP is fairly common. Disembodied voices are rare, and they come in several different forms. You've got white noise. We talked earlier about running the spirit box. We capture a lot of audible voice phenomena, and also EVPs over top of those recordings that didn't come through the box itself, but we feel like that static noise and kind of enhanced our ability to be able to pull out those voices out of the atmosphere. But AVPs are always really super special when they happen, because it's just one of those, just me and Lynn, and that was a child. When you hear something like that. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think that's an important part you talked about, John. Like, these have been happening since human beings have been recording sound. And Edison kind of became obsessed with that to a certain degree, on trying to communicate with the other side. And so, yeah, these have been happening for a long time. And I think I talked to you about this last time, having a small conversation. There's a lot of groups that were hesitant to switch from, like ghost hunting groups and stuff, were not wanting to switch from like their magnetic tapes over to digital, because they didn't think they would work. And of course they have. So that took out some of like the theory of it, like, oh, well, it works because of like, we have these magnetic tapes, and that has something to do with why they're formed, but then iPhones work just as well. So who knows?
Yeah. And one thing that we forget is even through the years, like the microphone has not really advanced all that much. It is still, a very simple device. It works off of vibration, two magnets on each other, or a piece of metal that vibrates whenever it picks up a voice and it moves, and that's what actually causes it. But I mean, you would argue the point that if Edison was capturing on those little cylindrical discs, that, early record player, that there's nothing electronic there. That was just a needle carving off of the vibration that it was capturing with your voice. So I really just think that it has everything to do with the device itself, and the spirit's willingness to want to interact with that device and use it to communicate.
Excellent. All right. So just a reminder to chat, to those of you in chat, if you have any questions tonight, feel free to put them in there, and we will, I know John and Lynn are looking at chat, so they can see it, but we'll also take time to ask any questions that you have. Any questions about any of the EVPs we hear, or just your feedback, feel free to throw that in there as we move along. All right, Medium Jenny Lee, where are we at? You ready to...
Let's start with the Old Stone Jail. Will you tell us about that location?
Sure. You want to?
No, go ahead.
You want me to do it? Okay. So the Old Stone Jail is a jail in Hanover County, Virginia. It actually sits in Hanover Courthouse. directly across the street from the Hanover Tavern, as well as the Hanover Courthouse, which kind of ties into U.S. history a lot. Patrick Henry practiced law. That was one of the courthouses on his circuit. He would use offices in the Hanover Tavern on court days or weeks to prepare for court. And the jail is, of course, where they would house these individuals. And the jail is very simple. It is made probably with 12-inch or thicker granite rock. It has 4 cells, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs, and a central staircase. But for a very brief period of time, whenever public execution and hangings would occur in the gallows right outside of the jail and right outside of the courthouse, when it was deemed that public executions were to no longer occur, they started hanging people in the jail itself and actually hung them from the top of the stairs to carry out death sentences. So I think the way it is, I think there were 4 confirmed hangings that were carried out at executions in the jail. It's believed that there may even be more of that were unknown. But those were there were 4 were to be public executions that were carried out privately inside the jail.
Wow. That's gross. Okay, so we're going to play the first EVP from the Old Stone Jail. Here we go. Maybe. What's happening? Okay. Nothing will play. Technical problems.
You might have an issue because you have the one going through headphones, so you might have to set up another one to switch it to where it's playing from your desktop. Would that make sense?
I mean, it's not even letting me click on it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. It's doing something. Yes, but I do need to switch the something. Oh, goodness gracious. Why do we always have to have some problems? Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, it's not coming through the...
Yeah, because it should play over if you're using your headphones, is that it should come through over that regardless.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it again. Okay, hold on. Let me turn it up. I bet you could hear that. Okay. Okay. Will you guys tell us what's happening there? The footsteps, and then there's something that's said after that that might be hard to hear.
So this was.
It wasn't a public. We were with friends of ours that we used to be on a different team many years ago. Not many years ago, but so it was a group of us, but not public. So it was a private group.
Okay.
So in the Hanover jail, when you go upstairs, there's like what is now a conference room. So they were all sitting in there. I was the only one outside. I was sitting in the doorway. Mm-hmm. And I had a recorder out there on the steps, at the top of the steps. So we're all sitting, and we have video actually that backs this up too, is Steve may have asked a question or something, but so the footsteps you hear, that's the residual. That's not one of us. So nobody's walking. Like I said, we have video to back it up. Everyone's sitting. I'm standing, and the walking is occurring out in the hallway next to the steps. And what the male voice is saying, he says, "Mind your head." And he has he has a little accent. like mind your head or whatever.
Yeah.
But and we were thinking, that's what'd you say, like either when they were hanging people,
Yeah.
or they were hanging
Ooh.
like on the steps, mind your head, right? But we didn't hear that out loud, so that was caught after reviewing the evidence. And but I think that's what John said is what's cool is we like to, as much as possible, have the video to back stuff up.
Yeah.
And you can see it.
If I'm not
That was
mistaken, I think we had the video for that one, and that's one of the things I talked about when we were looking at it together yesterday. Is like we could see the whole group just sitting right there, and you hear
These
those
crazy
It was-
footsteps.
Yeah, and that was a miserable investigation. And of course, we have to give credit to Steve Dills and Transcend Paranormal. That was actually occurred when we were once members of Transcend. And Transcend is responsible for bringing the Old Stone Jail and Hanover Tavern to folks to be able to investigate out there and do quite a few public events. But it was middle of summer. It was smoldering hot in that jail.
Mm-hmm.
It was late in the night, and we were all just tired. Everyone was sitting around that conference room, and we had gotten kind of lazy actually, because we had all just sat down, threw a bunch of stuff out on the table, and we're just in there. And if you look at the video, we're all just like, and I actually had set up, we had actually set up our DVR recorder. We had a 4-camera wireless DVR system set up in there. And the reason why we set it up in there is because it's so far away from anything, you can't really run a bunch of cables. So the wireless DVR system worked great. And I had a camera on the upstairs landing and a camera on the downstairs. We had a recorder at the camera. We had a recorder at the top of the stairs, and we had a recorder at the bottom of the stairs. And Lynn's actually standing in the doorway of the conference room, kind of half in the upstairs landing at the top of the stairs and half in it. So you can see Lynn in both cameras. Those footsteps walked right by Lynn.
Wow.
And then, and I like, and that's why I said it's always important to run video, because you could actually see, we had probably 7 or 8 investigators in there, and no one responded to any of that. No one even flinched.
Yeah.
Nobody heard it. We went back and reviewed it, and it was just one of those,
Wow.
oh my God. And the only thing we can really think about was that was a prison guard. It was heavy boots.
Was boots, yeah.
Mind your head. He could have been talking about, the hanging, or, it is very low. When you get on the stairs, you kind of have to duck to keep from banging your head on the top of the stairs. Maybe he was just walking and said, "Hey, mind your head." But yeah, I was blown away with that one.
All right, we're going to play it again now that you know what to listen to.
Yeah, and crank that baby up as much as you can get it.
Okay, I'm going to turn it up real loud here. Mind your head. You can hear the head part really well. Mind your head.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's another one from the Old Stone Jail.
Yeah.
That
Is that the is this?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so before you play this, this was actually not an EVP. This is an AVP, which we talked about earlier. This was a disembodied voice.
You could hear it.
Everyone in the jail at the time heard this, and this is where I was talking about. We were coming off of a spirit box session. We're actually closing the session, and as you can imagine, the spirit box in that jail with those stone walls, it was just echoing, and we had been doing it for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And as soon as we cut that box off, we captured that disembodied voice.
And everybody heard it. This was a public event, so everyone
heard
it.
it. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here it comes. Can everybody hear that? It's so creepy.
That's the singing.
See you.
It's like it was playing peekaboo with it.
Oh my
So, and actually, it
God.
came from the bottom of the steps. So we're all upstairs, everyone. It came from the bottom of the step, and it was everybody's face went like that. There was a younger girl, probably teenager in the group. She's like, "No way!" And she ran downstairs, ran outside. She thought someone was out there. She came back in. She's, "Nobody's out there."
It's too late in the morning. And we're on the county courthouse grounds. We're right next to the police. There's nobody's messing around with us out there. And I tell people, I was like, if you play it again, it's so clear. You can kind of tell it came from inside the jail because you can hear the vibrato in her voice, the echoing, where she's carrying a tune.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like she was just at the bottom of the stairs, looking up and playing peekaboo with us.
Oh, it's so creepy. Okay, I'm going to play it again. Here we go. Yikes. It's like she was intentionally trying to be creepy.
Oh, yeah.
And that leads into one of the good questions that we still to this day don't have the answer to is why
Why was there a child there?
why was there a child in the jail?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
maybe it's a woman or somebody with a very young sounding female
Yeah.
voice. But
Yeah, and one of the ghost stories, I guess, if you wanted to say it, behind the jail was that others have captured a child's voice through EVP there, and to my knowledge, this is the only disembodied or audio voice phenomena that's ever been captured of her, and we to this day do not know what it could possibly be. And one of the only theories that I actually have around that is one of the more controversial hangings in the jail was around a gentleman back in the 19th century named Baldwin, who was accused of and incarcerated and sentenced to death by because he raped a planter's daughter in the fields one day. Of course, back then when something like that happens, color of skin did have a lot to do with how you were treated. But a lot of people felt like he was innocent. And the only thing I can think of is if he was really innocent and it's this child, there because of that. That's the only lore or anything that we can ever tie to a child with someone that was in that jail.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm sure the history's out there somewhere. Whether it's written down or not is another thing.
Yeah, you can actually search for him if you search Google for like hangings at Hanover Jail. That story is going to come up, and it was very a lot. Honestly, the community sided a lot with him.
Wow.
In his innocence, and it was still carried out.
Crazy. Well, I love that one. Can see you. Okay. So there's a place, as you said, it was across the street, the Hanover Tavern. You have an EVP there. We're going to play. Will you tell us about the Hanover Tavern?
Exact date. I know that the exact date. God, I hope Steve's not listening. Or takes he's going to be pulling his head out if he is. The tavern itself predates America.
Wow.
It like I said, Patrick Henry, Hanover Courthouse was on his circuit. He was an attorney. He stayed there quite frequently. It's believed that George Washington stayed there, and it was a tavern even back in the Revolutionary War. And it would basically be the location where folks on court days would go. They'd stay there. They'd eat dinner as well. I guess probably the more prominent story there is that it was a is it tuberculosis? Or yeah,
Fire, the TB.
there was an outbreak, and it was people in the community that had tuberculosis stayed at the tavern, and a lot of the deaths that occurred at the tavern were as a result of that. There's actually a book written. If you go to the tavern's website and look it up, there is actually a diary of a woman who actually lived at the tavern and stayed there during the outbreak to treat the people that stayed there. So a lot of the things that we do get around there are related to that period.
Wow, that'd be interesting to read. All right, we're going to play this one from the Hanover Tavern.
You can feel safe with me. You can play. But it must be them.
Maybe what?
You heard that, right?
What?
The voices.
No. Did you hear any voices, Dave?
No, I did not.
I love that Lynn is the only person that could hear it when it happened. It's clearly a child's voice. I want to play, and it's kind of sing-songy like the other one.
Yeah, and we've captured a lot around that little girl in the tavern, and that was unique. That was 100% a Lynn experience, and I'll let her kind of explain it to you. But I'm glad Lynn's decided to join the stream tonight, because she is like the EVP magnet. She captured these things, and it's fantastic her abilities to go out and record and capture these. So
Awesome.
A lot of these were actually captured by her. And then we both review the evidence together, and I kind of work the software to get it as clear as possible, with as little as possible. But Lynn's credited with a lot of these captures.
No, and that was so. In that one at the Hanover Tavern, they have a theater where they actually put on. I think, maybe by now. I know during COVID they didn't, but they actually put on production plays and stuff. So it's a theater setting, probably a medium-sized one. I was just sitting on one side, like you said, John was there. The owner, the man that you hear him asking, "Did you hear anything, Dave?" That's the guy who runs the tavern. He was sitting there, but we were just doing the investigation. So the theory is with the girl is, we try to get her to play, try to get her to interact. She's a child. We've used, tried whether it's balls or dolls or anything. And we were just sitting there, and like you hear asking about want to play. I physically heard her out loud. And just kind of what we were saying before the show is when you hear things out loud, or if you see things, so like we were talking about with the lamp, your mind originally thinks, "No, I didn't hear that." You start doubting yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say, "Hey, you heard that, right?" Because I'm looking for that validation that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Because I physically heard the little girl's voice out loud. So when he said no, and Dave says, because I did not. He was hearing us, he heard nothing. So that's like he said, that's the AVP, and that's really cool. And you get to hear things out loud, and then when your recorder picks it up to back you up, right? So it's because it's rare, but we have had on a very few rare occasions where we hear something and the recorder does not pick it up. We don't have an answer for that, but
yeah.
So this is good that the recorder picked it up too, because I heard the little girl loud.
Yeah, and that, like I said, her recorder captured that. I had a recorder as well. Dave in the theater, and when we're talking about theaters, this isn't a very big theater. Mm-hmm. We're within 20 feet of one another. Lynn's up in one section of the theater, kind of up here. I'm here, and then Dave's over here on the opposite side. And of course, it's a theater, so anything that you would hear in there, you would anticipate everyone would hear it. Mm-hmm. It's got soundproofing in it. It's when you're sitting in there in the dark, it is very quiet. And of course, you heard Lynn. As soon as she heard that, she went, "That's them. It's got to be them," and talking about someone else in the tavern. But we didn't hear it, so it was either very close to her or at her, like this little girl was asking Lynn, no, Lynn said, you want to play? And she said, I want to play, directed at Lynn.
Yeah.
And we, 20 feet away, did not hear that.
Yeah,
And my recorder didn't capture it.
and that
Hers
theater
did.
is a place. It was probably not the same night, but another investigator and myself, back when we were talking about Transcend, we were actually on the stage one night and doing the same thing, interacting with what we thought was the little girl. And that was another one of those wow moments. It's just she and I. The others didn't see it right in front of us. This little, right when we have this interaction going, this little ball of light like this just came right here in front of us, doing this,
Wow.
circling right in front of us, and then it's kind of, and she's like, neither one of us wanted to say anything.
Yeah.
We said, you saw that, right? Because it just was dancing. It was like doing this, and then it just disappeared. But nobody else saw it. Only she and I saw it.
Wow.
So that's why I think today they still think the little girl hangs out there.
Yeah.
She is.
Today it was a theater, and there's also a restaurant there. Back then, it would have been the winter kitchen and the quarters for the workers in the tavern itself. So we don't know if this little girl was a worker. We don't know if she was the daughter of someone that stayed there, or perhaps even died of tuberculosis. We don't know what her story is.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, let's play that one more time before we move along to the next part.
So one more time, and I'll do a little reset for us. So play that one more time.
Okay. All right. Here it comes.
You can feel safe with me. You can play. But it must be them.
Who, what?
You heard that, right?
What?
The voices.
No. Did you hear any voices, Dave?
No, I did not.
And nobody heard anything.
Just Lynn.
Yeah, just Lynn.
Wow.
So welcome in, everybody. Hello, Bree and Moonlight Maggie and Keisha and Boy Cat Lucy and the Wanderer and everyone who's stopped in to hang out. Tonight is the 1-year anniversary of the Witching Hours.
Woo!
Our first episode was last Halloween.
Yeah.
So this is episode 14. We managed to put out 14 in a year.
Not bad.
That's not too bad.
No.
And we've gone from 1 month to trying to get one a month to 2 a month. So we're doing good. And so thank you everyone who's been coming in and hanging out with us and keeping us company while we're doing these. And tonight we have John and Lynn from RVA Paranormal back for this Halloween spooktacular or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of EVPs. Last time when John was on, we said those were awesome. Can you get like a bunch of those? And we'll
And
go over
he
them.
did not disappoint.
Did not disappoint at all. We went through some of them last night, and I think we picked 11 for you guys to listen to tonight, and we could have picked a bunch more.
Yeah.
But we'll, going through these, this will fill us up for sure. And last time you guys really enjoyed it, I think. So have fun with the EVP listening tonight.
Yes. So we talked a lot about Patrick Henry, and there's another Patrick Henry place. You were telling us a little bit about it before the show started. So fill in our listeners about this Scotchtown location.
Yeah. So Scotchtown was the home of Patrick Henry whenever he gave the "Give Me Liberty, Give Me Death" speech. So this was his actual home. Scotchtown's kind of unique in the sense that it kind of tied into Patrick Henry and that famous speech itself. The home is preserved magnificently by the Virginia Historical Society, the same folks that actually are responsible for preserving Williamsburg, Yorktown, and some other really good locations. In an attempt to continue to try to preserve Scotchtown, they opened their doors and let, again, Transcend Paranormal and RVA is investigated there as well with Transcend, come in and hold group investigations there to help raise money for the preservation of these locations in Virginia. Scotchtown is unique. Bless you. Scotchtown is unique in the fact that Patrick Henry's 4 children were there, and there's it's got a little bit of a dark past. Not every you think about Patrick Henry and everything. It's got a bit of a dark history that they're not unwilling to share. They've actually got a portion of the house set up, remembering some of the darker history that occurred there, which was after Patrick Henry's wife Sarah had their last child. She went in and started suffering from postpartum depression, which back then was lunacy. Mm-hmm. There was no such thing as postpartum depression. It wasn't understood. So, as you can imagine, Patrick Henry took Sarah to Williamsburg, to where the institution was, and they were going to admit her and keep her locked up. She was crazy, which kind of left Patrick Henry in a little bit of a spot. Here we have a high figure, founding father of America, whose wife, albeit by today's period, they would have gave her some pills and sent her home, and she would have been fine. Mm-hmm. Said your wife is crazy. She needs to spend the rest of her life in an insane asylum, and he didn't want to do that. So he made arrangements to bring Sarah back to Scotchtown, and he bought a housemaid that was solely responsible for Sarah's care. It was in the basement. Sarah had a room where she was locked away from the family, away from guests, and they let her out on special occasions, of course. But if there was anything going on where people were coming over, Sarah was locked away from sight. And you can kind of feel that when you go into that basement. Oh my gosh, there's just sorrow everywhere. But and I can't really fault Patrick Henry. He did the best thing he could at the time. He didn't want her to stay locked away, so he brought her. He felt like, okay, if she's crazy, she needs to be at home, and we'll take care of her. And I've got the means to do that. Unfortunately, it was not very, it was not good either way for Sarah.
Yeah.
But it is a place and a location that you can go to and tour. And they will give you the grand tour, and they will show you the house itself and talk about the history of it. There's an area there that was Patrick Henry's law office that's on the grounds. The summer kitchen is still intact. The winter kitchen in the basement is still intact, and all the rooms are kept to period and original.
Wow.
In the attic.
And the attic.
I got scratched in the attic.
Yikes.
Oh, wow.
There's been a lot of activity at Scotchtown that's been both physical and not just for Lynn. We've had people bit. We've had people scratched, touched, pushed, doors open on their own, footsteps in the law offices. It's just it's a crazy place.
Wow. All right, well, let's play this EVP from Scotchtown.
Come on in and talk to us. We want to know the real story. We think Sarah should not have been kept down here. She was not that sick.
It just went almost all the way to red.
What?
My K2.
Nicole's slide just moved through here.
And their voice came over the
She was not sick. She did not deserve this. Do you agree? Sarah, if that's you, we understand. Do you feel like you were treated unfairly?
So I'm going to back it up to the part where the EVP happens and play it again.
Not have been kept down here. She was not that sick.
It just went.
That one gets me.
Yeah.
Could everybody hear that one?
You're screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually a spirit box session. So that came over a spirit box, and what made it unique was that if you were to take and listen to the time that you started hearing the cry, it was over about 10 or 15 skips. And for anyone who doesn't know what a spirit box is, it's basically a digital radio that creates white noise over, and it scans all the FM or AM frequencies and changes them. So imagine listening to 101.1, 102, 101.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Each one of those skips represents a different band. And it's not uncommon to hear things come over that are actual radio feed, but as that is skipping and moving higher in the frequency, it's rare to hear something that starts on 100.1 and ends on 102.3.
Yeah.
It's just, there's not that much, relevance to the frequency. So one of the things that I tried down there was empathy. Just, sympathy for Sarah.
Yeah.
Letting her know that we were there to find out what happened, and to let her know that we don't think that she should have been treated the way that she had been treated, that we understand that she wasn't that sick. Almost kind of like we wanted her to feel like finally someone understands, someone knows, someone, agrees with me. And we had people that were in Sarah's room, is what they call it, which is a very small room with a bed and a dresser, and that's where she was kept. And then outside of that, there's a fireplace and a table, and that's where her caregivers would have stayed. So we had people in that room, some people in Sarah's room. There was a K2 on the bed. There was a K2 in the doorway. And when I started talking and kind of, sending that compassion for her, the K2 on the bed went off. The K2 on the floor went off right after that. And everyone just felt the temperature in the room drop.
Wow.
And then when I said that, and you heard that cry,
But that was not through the spirit box. That was through the white noise.
Yeah, but that was.
We didn't hear that through the spirit box out loud.
Through the white noise itself.
So that was that's why it was an EVP. We didn't hear it through the spirit box. That's why nobody reacted.
Yeah.
We reacted to the temperature. That scream though was generated through that white noise.
That's amazing.
And it was really interesting too because you hear the scream or the cry, and then you guys are also making notice of, like, maybe it's like the EVP or whatever you said was. So you were getting all kinds of other evidence that just like coincided
All
right
together.
when that EVP happened. Yeah.
And hearing screams in the house is not new. That is something that other people have experienced as well. But again, as investigators, we don't try to go in and interrogate, right? We try to stay away from, how old are you? What's your name? What's your favorite color? How did you die? Terrible question, by the way. Never ask this.
Yeah.
We try to go in and talk to them as they would have been talked to in their living form. We sit down, we have conversations, talk about the history of the house, talk about how beautiful it must have been in the winter.
Well, sometimes we'll say, "Is this your who's responsible for the house or wherever we are?" Talk to present tense, because again, there's a strong theory that some spirits don't know that they've passed. So that's why we personally don't ever ask, "How did you die?" or what's we don't go into that, because what if they don't know? And they're like, wait, what?
What? I'm dead?
What? What do you mean? Yeah, we'll talk like, "Hey, is this your house?" Or can we come visit you in your home or wherever we are? We're here to visit. We'll set our respect. We'll set our intentions. Intention is very important. But yeah, we like what he's saying. That's what he was doing there too. Is just say, you didn't deserve this, and that would be just as true if it were present tense or even past. Like, "Hey, you don't deserve this." You don't. We understand. So.
Kind of talking to her, not at her.
Yeah. They're just people too.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's play that one again. I'm just going to play the part right before you can hear her kind of scream out. All right. Here we go. Maybe. You can do it, computer. Or not. Okay, hold on. Let's try this again. Oh no, what has happened? There's a problem with this audio file. I just played it.
Come on in and talk to us. We want to know the real story.
Spirit from Octagon followed us.
We think Sarah should not have been kept down here. She was not that sick.
It just went almost all the way to red. On
What?
My K2.
Okay,
My
so,
K2.
Nicole's slide just moved through here.
And their voice became.
She was not sick. She did not deserve this.
All right. Yeah, that's a great one. She's
Yeah.
like, no.
Yep.
Yeah, poor Sarah.
And then just to hear them say, "Oh, the K2 just went to red."
Yeah.
You just get that kind of, you know, everything's kind of happening there at the same time.
Yeah, and again, these are public events. We have people that came with us that had never been investigating before, were there as a fundraising event, and they get to experience something like that. And I leave there. It's like I always have a little joke. Like when something fantastic happens, like anytime in the morning, I'll be like, "You're welcome. You can leave," because I don't know that it's going to get any better than that. But we're gonna try. But that's what you hope that people get to experience when they come to the groups. So it's not always, you know, the group investigations are not always successful, but we do everything we can possibly do to ensure that the guests have that experience. And we kind of leave it on the table with them to decipher what is or what isn't paranormal, but we want them to feel like, you know, we want them to be part of the investigation, not just that they're being led around and we're doing everything for them. We want them to be the investigators and to experience the same thing. So we do try to do these in the same way that we would do it if we were doing it privately and by ourselves.
Yeah. It sounds like fun. We need to do this.
Y'all should totally
go
come.
on. Yes, we need to go
Well,
on.
yeah, I was just thinking to myself, I mean, we should.
What are we
definitely try
waiting
to,
for? Let's
yeah,
get
I
on
know.
this.
The public events are hard because, like you said, you can't force it, right? I mean, we and our friends, we never fake anything. So if it's quiet, if nothing else, he'll get them laughing. But yeah, it's hard to participate, right?
And I don't know if we got to talk to you because we didn't get to talk to you last time, Lynn. But me and Medium Jenny Lee, we were in a group in our local area called MAPS. It was like for Madison area out here towards the mountains where we are, and we were able to do a few, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 investigations or so.
Before COVID happened,
and then COVID happened, and the group kind of fell apart. And then the last couple of times we did investigations, they were a little difficult because typically there were kind of like, you know, different groups of friends in that group, and they wanted to break off separately. And so that me and Medium Jenny Lee would kind of sit in a room and do EVP sessions, and another group of ladies would go do their sessions. And they were all great people, but Medium Jenny Lee and one of the other ladies in the group were mediums. And so the mediums were separating off.
Sorry.
Yeah, with the people who were not mediums.
Yeah.
And so I'd be sitting in a room like trying to get questions, you know, off a device, and then, you know, the ladies are saying, "Oh, well, you know, so and so here, her name's this and this, and this is what the issue is," and I'm going like, "Well, my you know, K2 ain't doing anything," you know? So it's like, you know.
You gotta get up.
Yeah.
So, you know, looking back at that, we had already figured out that we needed to like change how we were doing those investigations since we had mediums in there.
It needed to be separate.
So we've wanted to do more investigations now that we know that it's probably not, unfortunately, Jenny, it's probably not best for us to team up on those. I need to be with a different group.
No.
You must be separated.
Yes. Mediums,
Until I start hearing voices, maybe.
mediums don't need the tools. We are the tools.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and it's funny. We were talking today on the way back from the Octagon over the weekend. How lucky, I mean, fortunate we are that, we've been married and kind of let this sink in. We've been married for 24 years. We've been investigating together over 14.
Wow.
So this is something that we did in the infancy of our marriage
Yeah.
and started doing together. And there is a point in transition that everyone goes through, I feel like, with paranormal. It's like a lot of people start the same way we did. We started by first realizing that we had a common interest. Then the next thing we were doing is we were looking for group investigations to go on together. And then realizing that this isn't so hard, we should take that money from group investigations and buy a K2 meter and a voice recorder and go start doing some of this
Get your
on
own
our
stuff.
Yeah.
We've been a part of a big team. We've been a part of a medium team, and now we are a team. And just like in our marriage, in paranormal, we're a team of two. And Kristen joins us, of course. But we enjoy it so much. And on the way home today, I was like, we've experienced so much over the past 13 or 14 years. I said, we've heard, children singing in the jail to us. We've, Lynn's seen a man standing behind me. We've seen an apparition appear at the top of the stairs on video. And
door opening at Thomas.
We've doors opening, lamps cutting on by themselves. We're not trying to convince ourselves anymore that paranormal exists.
Mm-hmm.
Questions are still there, like why is it there? And people ask us that all the time when we go to these events, and it's like, and I think, the big answer to that is we may not have any of the answers until we're on the other side of that veil.
Yep.
Like when we pass away and we have the ability to realize, oh, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Right? And we're the one opening the doors. We may not have those answers, but now we're just doing it together to have these experiences one-on-one. And we're not the type of people that we're going to sit there and try to convince others that paranormal exists. Listen to this. Look at this picture, that we captured, or anything like that. Because I really feel like that if you believe that it is, and you're that interested in it, something will click and something will happen to convince you of that. We don't need to be convinced of that.
Yeah.
We don't try to convince others of that. But we do like to share what we do through YouTube and Facebook and have people draw their own conclusions. And of course, we get people all the time who are like, that was fake. You faked that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I'm like, I'm not going to convince you that it is or it isn't. But I've got $3,000 worth of cameras and gear sitting behind me that if
$3,000.
you could fake it for a lot. You could fake it for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if you want to fake stuff, you don't have to buy all the equipment.
Yeah, I could do this with a GoPro Hero and an iPhone. I don't need to go and buy like 4K cameras and all this gear to fake anything. So shame on you. But we try to do it more or less because we want to have those experiences, and people that have been in the field as long as we have feel the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He doesn't like it though. I'm a big believer in mental telepathy. Like we've had experiences where we've had spirits actually read our minds. That stuff blows my mind because I have my degrees in psychology, so I'm the people watcher.
Yeah.
Go ahead and I'll watch the people, But I did it to him this weekend. I did it twice, and in my head I was just thinking something, and both times I was just, I didn't know what I was getting with.
Make John scratch his nose and I go.
But no, it's a couple times, but it happened while I was thinking. But I do we do have fun because sometimes I'll say, when Kristen's especially with us, he'll be in a different room and we'll say, hey, John's up here in this room. Go up there and just smack him on the head or go poke him on the shoulder and tell him to get up. We have actually did that one time. We said, hey, we can't find John. We can't get his attention. Can you go get him and tell him to come down here? And it was like 10 minutes later, not even that much. I don't know. It was a couple minutes later. John comes down looking for us, and Chris and I went, wow, okay.
It worked. Yeah. That's awesome.
He hates that though, but I'm just with him on that.
I wouldn't say I hate it. I hate it.
He's like, don't you tell?
But now it leaves me wondering, like when I get up off the couch and I'm walking across the room and I stub my toe on the table, I'd be like,
This weekend though, that was pretty cool when it happened.
But it is. I mean, it's a very interesting field, and a lot of answers. I mean, a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to, and they're the same questions everyone else has, and there's a lot of theories, but there's nothing that's proven about the paranormal, and I don't, like I said, until we're on the other side and we're the ones shutting doors and turning on lamps, I don't know that we ever have an answer to that.
Yeah.
But we're just going to keep having fun with it.
My fault covered off of you.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point too. I mean, talking about like the faking things. I mean, some of the EVPs. I mean, you guys have really good EVPs. Some of the EVPs, that I've heard, I've been like, this is either proof of, of life after death. I mean, this EVP is either proof of life after death or someone's pulling my leg. It has to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes in this field, having your legitimacy in the trust you have from the people who follow what you do is probably the most important thing you have.
Good point. And we get that all the time from people. The folks that follow us on Facebook and on YouTube, even at these events that we go to for Haunted Nights Paranormal events, we had people this weekend that came up to us and just said, you're our favorites.
Oh,
wow, thanks. Not necessarily because we're fantastic investigators, but because they have fun and we're good to be around. And some of the best evidence that's faked out there are like strings on chairs pulling things across the floor, and you don't really not saying that those things don't happen, because trust me, we've seen those things happen. We've seen doors open on their own and things like that. But what you want to see us doing, right, is putting that out there and be like, see, this chair moved on its own. Because something that fantastic as it is, it's a personal experience. And someone that doesn't believe, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to prove to them that chair moved on its own. But for me and her, having experienced that, you're not going to convince us of anything otherwise. So when we go into these locations, the first thing that we try to really focus on hard is audio. We do live EVP sessions where we do a series of questions over the course of 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go back immediately and play that audio. And when we've got someone that's in a group with us that asks the question, "What is your name?" and they get a response to them that they know that they did not hear when they asked that question, their mind's blown. And that's the type of things that we focus on with that. It's not always a chair moving across the room or a door opening or something like that. Those things are kind of holy grail things that you, as an interest in the paranormal, need to go out and experience for yourself. But audio and video and hearing these EVPs and knowing firsthand that no one in the room said those words, because you're standing right there in front of me and I've got the recorder, that I didn't say it, and I know that you didn't say it, but yet here we are listening to this man responding, telling us what his name is. That kind of leaves people at the end of the night when they walk away. They've experienced something. They know that they know in fact that something did happen, and we still leave it up to them to interpret what that is and what they believe. And we've actually, like I said, we've had people run out of an investigation that they paid $60 for. Thanks for a great evening. This is really weird. And then they call it gone. And I'm like,
Time to go.
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. I really don't feel like they got their money's worth because they left 3 hours early, but they got to experience something really cool. And I'm always bugging Lyle and Tana. Is like, did we get any bad feedback? Did the people that left in such a hurry, did they respond to things? Like, oh no, everybody. So
I guess that was just enough for them.
We want people to experience it, and sometimes audio is the best way to do that. I mean, it's the
especially this weekend, they really enjoyed it. I mean, and I think because this weekend especially, we had a lot of people who were new. They've never investigated before. It's the curiosity factor, and like you said, We say don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask anything you want. Even like John said, what's your favorite ice cream? Something like that. But like this one lady, she just asked, how big's your congregation in your church? Because the history there is about Reverend Snow. And there was a male voice that replied, and she just thought it was the coolest thing. It said, "What church?" And she was like, it was very clear. It said, "What church?" I was like, oh.
Oh yeah, we had a guy, Tony. Tony was with us. Tony is Spanish, and his English is his second language, so he speaks like someone that's learning English. And so when we were going around the room, we were asking the question. Sometimes it's hard for him to translate what we're asking him to do. He's like,
Tell me the name of someone you love.
yeah, one of the big questions that we ask in a group forum, we get everyone in a circle and we take the recorder and we walk around and we say we're going to ask the same question, but when we ask the question, when you say the question, we want everyone thinking that question in their head in order to try to solicit a response. So sometimes it's just 10 people standing in a circle asking the same question to a recorder. And a lot of times we'll get multiple responses, right? Because we believe that spirit isn't necessarily where you're at, it's who's with you as well. So you may have a loved one or a friend that's passed or someone in the house or the location that we're with. Heaven forbid you have an attachment that comes with you to that location that is not normally there. And then you get an eye-opening moment. You say, tell me the name of someone you love, and they hear their name.
Oh, wow.
They hear their grandma's name in their grandma's
That's interesting.
voice.
That's
So we do that, and poor Tony, like, tell me the name of someone you love. And he was like, what did he say?
He said like, tell me name you love.
Tell me love your name or something. And when we played it back, Tony's like, you hear Tony going, tell me name of someone love. And you hear, what? It was all you didn't understand. So
we got that twice. So he's such a good sport too. He was there Friday night. We're like, Tony, he'll never live that down. But he's a good sport about it. But it was funny. The good part about that is like things we don't think about.
Yeah.
Like they're like, what did you just say? So who are you talking with? Who are you interacting with? And they didn't understand his English. So
yeah,
it was cool.
Well, you know what? Bless his heart. Tony's been back 3 times.
awesome.
I mean, he just keeps going back and back and back.
That would be, something interesting about that too that we've talked about before, just in private conversation, me and Jenny. That might be cool to have someone like that you're investigating with just ask questions in another language and see if you get a response.
We've had that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've had asked in Spanish, but French, where we just were.
We were just at a Tuckahoe plantation.
Yeah, so it's
actually in
French.
Richmond, Virginia, and we had several responses come back to us in French.
Wow.
Mm.
We have had, where were we? We did have, I think it was Spanish because our daughter speaks Spanish and she was trying to translate it. But in Native American languages, we've had that.
Wow.
We've had plenty of responses in that, and we were able to match it up. So
We were actually able to play back an EVP of someone speaking in Algonquin and had someone that was Native Americans know exactly what they were saying.
Wow.
And why they were saying that. Like, it was even like, oh, he said this because you presented a gift to him with your right hand. And it's different presenting a gift with your right hand than your left hand, because the right hand means you want something back, and the left hand means you expect nothing. And we're like,
we didn't know that.
why didn't we think of that? So now we got to have
responded, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And Juanca, she said thank you. And we're like, and we had a translator that he would actually work the property, and he spoke it really well. And he said,
Wow.
We all heard her say it out loud. Everybody heard her say it.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Really cool.
Keisha had a question, and she says, similar to that, do you do sage or anything to be sure that you do not have residual energy come home with you?
Good question.
Can I answer that real quick?
Yeah.
So it's funny you asked that, because just this weekend after we had our little experience where it seemed like this male energy was very flirtatious, messing with John, didn't want John to
about a woman.
Yeah, so John said, we need to sage or some crap, because he can't come home with us. And John has joked about that, like in another property with a more serious energy. He said, You do realize, Ace, we've heard that you actually follow people home and the equipment was coming on Hughes. You do realize you can't do that, right? So we don't necessarily sage as much as we just state our intention. We say, okay, thank you for letting us visit. We appreciate it. We'll come back and visit you, but this is your home. We have our home and you need to stay here. And we're going to go to our house and we'll come back and visit again.
But on the flip side of that, we have had things follow us.
But that's because before we knew what to do. Because we went to St. Albans, which was our first time, first time we were like, woohoo, St. Albans. Yeah, I was working.
We had our house staged one time, probably about 8 years ago. We brought something back with us from St. Albans that was being a little bit ornery at our rental house. We're knocking on the walls and like we had a pit bull at the time that like I was out of town and our pit bull major went on like lockdown. Staring at something down the hallway, bristled back and just laid
myself. He was camping with the girls. And
If you get next time you guys do a public one and you guys send us a message and we can come out, we would love to join you guys on something like that.
Yeah.
And then if we're out there, maybe Medium Jenny Lee can help do a ritual there at the end too.
Yeah.
and that's not to say that we haven't gone to these locations and we've been staged before we leave. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't do that on a regular, but
well, and before it depends on where we go. I really think it depends. Like when I go to St. Albans, only because not necessarily the history. I've never had anything bad happen there. I know other people have, but there's so many people that pass through that location, and you never know the energy they're leaving, right? So St. Albans is a place that I will ground myself before I even go in. So, and my daughter makes a joke, and I still, I kind of believe her because of the different experiences we've had. She said, "Mom, you're too holy." She said, "Nothing's going to mess with you. You're too holy." And we've been in a place where it's messed with John, and we've had someone tell him that he needs to be wearing, the St. Michael's medallion, but I've never had anything bad happen, which is good. But I sometimes, maybe it's psychological. I credit that to because we have been in a situation where we've been scared. I'm not going to lie. We've had some like, oh crap, well, I think we need to get out of here moments. And if I ever do feel like that line is being crossed, which is, I think it's only happened once, I'm not ashamed to admit that I stand up and claim my faith. I'm like, no, you can't do this because this is what I feel, this is what I believe. But that's Kristen's joke. She's, "Mom, you're too holy. Nobody's gonna mess with you. You go in there. Nobody's gonna mess with you."
Yeah, and it's different.
So I think a lot of it for me is
and it's a lot different having an attachment as opposed to having something follow you home. An attachment is feeding off of you. An attachment is like a parasite feeding off of your energy.
Yeah.
Something that follows you home could just be something that likes you.
We had a little girl follow us.
And a lot of times, and we tell people this all the time, it's like it's happened several times over the course of the years that we've been investigating, and we've kind of just learned, with our faith and our beliefs, we feel like we got the energy and the power to deal with whatever we've got that comes through, without calling a shaman to come into our house and seal it. A lot of times, it's just setting boundaries. Like, hey, look, we've enjoyed your stay, but you can stay if you want to, but this 4 a.m. stuff, the walls got to
Well, that one time we said
or you got to go, and then they do. But I mean, like I said, I've been affected in a way that where immediate cleansing and grounding was needed on me because
you had that
things that were rolling through my head, and everybody talks about like the voices in your head telling you to do things. It's real. I mean, I've had a voice in my head somewhere, tell me that I needed to get up and punch my daughter.
You said you wanted to come after me because Kristen felt the same thing.
And punch my wife.
Kristen, she felt it like I had to strangle you, Mom. I'm like, and then she said, "Because you're holy, Mom."
And I looked at Lynn, and Lynn looked at me, and she saw something in my eyes, and she's like, "You need to leave." And then I snapped out of it. I said, "You're right." And I got up and left.
Wow.
And I ran to a good friend of ours, Dennis Eslock. I was in tears. And he said, when I was coming towards him, he said, "Hit the ground." And I went down on my knees, and he did a
a cleansing on me and grounded me right there. And then it was like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders.
Wow.
But that was an eye-opening experience for me because I went into that investigation with a bad attitude and
Yeah.
negativity.
He was in a very bad mood. I said, "You need to drop that mojo."
You know, it
Yeah.
made me its bitch. I mean, it was like, you're my bitch. I'm going to get you. And I blame that on myself. I don't blame it on it. I blame it on myself because I put myself, I presented myself in that way. So even if I'm going to a place, I've believed before. I don't feel good. I don't feel right, not right frame of mind. I'm going to chill out here in the car for a little bit. And then if you feel better, I'll join. And it's good advice for anyone going into the place. If you get in an argument with your husband or your boyfriend before you even go to one of these public events, set yourself right before you go in there.
Before you walk in.
Because you just don't know what you're going to encounter, and maybe it's like, oh yeah, bring that negativity to me. Let me feed off of that.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you're right about, you know, having your faith or your belief system or whatever that is, you know, having that to be able to set the intent. I think that's important. To be able, your intentions on before you leave and stuff like that. One thing that you mentioned there, it kind of reminds me of an old interview I listened to with Malachi Martin, Father Malachi Martin. He was actually, are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he talks about that too, about, you know, possession is, you know, that starts exactly in that way. Like it's, things are looking for a cracked door to be able to get in. And so just having like a negative attitude or, you know, just not being in the mental, you know, right frame of mind or, you know, depression and stuff like that can crack that door open for something like that to be able to sneak its way in. So, and if you guys are familiar in chat, Malachi Martin, Father Malachi Martin was one of the Catholic priests that they ended up basing the movie The Exorcist off of. So a lot of really good interviews. If you want to go down the YouTube rabbit hole with him, he was a very interesting guy with a lot of interesting things that happened. He's passed now, I think maybe a decade or so ago, but definitely an interesting individual. All right, Medium Jaylee, are we ready to get into some more?
You talked a lot about St. Albans, and we do have an EVP from there. So for those people who don't know what St. Albans is, can you give us a little history?
You know more about St. Albans than I do, yeah.
So St. Albans is in Radford, Virginia. So we're in Richmond. It's about 3.5 hours. Actually, not too far from Louisville. It was it started out as a boys' school, I think in the 1700s, 1800s. The guy had good intentions, but it quickly turned into he was molding very violent boys. They were taught to fight, and there were
sports.
Well, yeah, he was raising for. Well, he was. Well, the boys' school. It was about sports, about being, you know, the best. But it turned violent. So the stories go that like several of the boys killed themselves. They actually sodomized and raped and killed another boy. So a lot of that darkness and that sadness was there, and then they were shut down. So that went on for several years, but it's because it got to the point where these boys were they were just violent.
Yeah.
But then this other gentleman stepped in, and he said he was going to make this into a sanatorium. He wanted to be really nice and, you know, really good place and everything. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. So again, the intent was there, but it molded into they started having lobotomies, I think. Electroshock therapy, allegedly. But electroshock therapy was very popular. Hydrotherapy, and a lot of workers had raped some of the patients. They had babies. So there's all these, endless, countless stories. The bigger ones are that Rebecca apparently is one of the most predominant spirits. She was impregnated by a staff worker, and they were going to, I think they killed her baby, or she lost it, but she put the baby in a jar and put the jar in a closet and hid it, and they found it.
Wow.
So a lot of people, when they walk into that room, they feel the sadness there. There were 3 other ladies that killed themselves. That suicide bathroom, which is one of the ones that I think you have. So again, a lot of suicides, a lot of deaths. A lot of people obviously had severe mental problems. But that was open up through, I think, the 90s. And I won't get too personal because I know someone's listening, but it was actually later on in the year, of course, it was a nice facility. So it had that generational history of that darkness, but then, of course, as times modernized, it was a nicer facility until it was shut down. So it has tons of history there, but it's very notorious for the insane asylum part. The boys' school has one history, but the insane asylum, I mean, you're talking has what, 3 levels of isolation? Like simple isolation, bad isolation, really bad.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's huge. It's a huge place.
It's one of those locations that has seen
So much
medical advancement and where it was when it closed as opposed to what it was when it started with electroshock therapy, hydroshock therapy. There was a award for the retarded children. There were 3, like Lynn said, 3 levels of confinement and you go into some of these areas and there's just a slit in the door with a 3-inch thick jail door is the best way that I can describe it, where they kept the insane. I mean, we're talking like lunacy.
Yeah.
And it just spans so much. There's just so much energy there from different things. I mean, it was, it saw it shared tuberculosis. There's a tuberculosis. There's a ward there where they would let the patients go outside. It was called the birdcage area, and it was basically just an outdoor steel cage where they could see the sun, but they were on the roof type thing.
caged in.
And it just covers.
But it definitely has a reputation of being one of the most haunted places on the East Coast. It's been on TV by all the ghost shows too. But we know the owner. She's wonderful. She runs the place, but the place is huge. So we've gotten lost.
I bet.
But actually, has a bowling alley in there where the patients play, supposedly bowl. But there's, over the years, especially, there's been so many other. They'll tell you too. They go, "We think we have a new energy here," and then we've seen it. We've seen it like, "Wow, this is a new one."
Wow.
So, yep.
As some, I mean, by the stories, the energy just keeps changing.
I bet.
History as well as the present.
All right, we're gonna play this
Like,
EVP from
right.
St. Albans.
It's a big maze. Flash. Very cold. Very, very cold.
It is cold in here.
3 in here?
yeah, 3 days.
All right, I'm gonna play it one more time.
It's a big maze. Flash. Very cold. Very, very cold.
It is cold in here.
3 in here?
Yeah, 3 days. Hope you heard it.
So I hear clearly in the middle. It sounds, well, to me, I don't know what you guys think it sounds like, but to me, it almost sounds like "Hi, John." But then, isn't there something else at the end?
It's an exhale.
It says hello, child.
Oh, hello,
Yeah.
child.
So where that was taken was actually in the females, the female section of the hospital. What would have been suicide lockdown. So if someone was in danger of committing suicide, they were taken there, especially from female. That particular area ties into what Lynn was talking about with the patient that was there that was raped by a staff member and impregnated and kept her baby, had her baby in secrecy, kept it in a jar until they took it away. And it was in one of the bathrooms. And these bathrooms that were in there were kind of like, you walk in and there's a wall and you kind of have to walk around the wall to get to where where the bathroom actually is. Lynn was leading, and then we had and this was like one of our first investigations.
We were actually guests in here. So we were with total stranger. So we weren't like leading; we were actually guessing.
Lynn was leading a group of people that went into that bathroom, and there was a girl with us. I think she was 21 at the time, but she was probably like 5'3". I mean, she maybe just hit like right here, and she looked like a child. I mean, she wasn't a child, but she had she looked very young and was very short for her age. Well, Lynn's got the recorder, and she's walking in, and she says, she makes reference to like it's like a big maze. Well, that's because you have to go around so many walls to get in there. And as soon as she walked into the bathroom, Lynn's recorder picked up a female voice that sounds like it says, "Hello, child." And then there's an exhale. And as soon as you hear that exhale, Lynn's like, oh, it's cold. Like she felt the temperature drop. And the person behind her even confirmed, yes, it's very, very cold in here, which was the smaller girl that we feel like it was referring to. What we don't know is, was this someone that had committed suicide in that bathroom or was held in that ward, or was it even the person that lost her child in that area, referring to this girl behind Lynn. But it's like, hello, child, and then
Yeah.
And that was one of the first EVPs that Lynn actually captured. Like I said, that was probably, we've only been investigating just a couple of years.
That was our first time visiting St. Albans, and we're like,
Yeah.
it's a
But
big one.
that was
It's a big one.
that was in the women's suicide watch area.
Wow.
It was actually, in all seriousness, it was actually after that visit when we talked about grounding and staging, where we didn't know any better, right? We just walked into this notoriously haunted place, and we're thinking, oh, this is, be fun. We didn't know any better. We had all these great experiences, and that was the night that we came home, and it was shortly after that, I know John's told that story where someone started banging on our wall the night, and we're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So that was our waking moment, going, I think we need to learn what to do and make sure nothing follows us home, because I didn't want that again.
Wow. All right, let's play this EVP one more time. Maybe. Every time I try to play it, then it doesn't want to play again. All right. I have to finagle something here.
It's a big maze. Flash. Very cold. Very, very cold.
It is cold in here.
3 in here?
Yeah, 3 definitely.
Yeah. Hello, child. Very breathy.
Yeah.
Very breathy voice.
And that's one thing I've never understood about EVPs. They come across so often as whispers.
Mm-hmm.
So often, in fact, that when you actually get an EVP that is like we had this weekend, where it sounds like someone's talking to you, you almost go over it because you think it is someone talking. But yeah, I mean, very often they're whispers or breathy responses.
I think I had an experience one time when I could hear it with my ears, and it's almost sounded like they were having to talk through something. It's almost like they were trying to talk to me through a wall or something, is what it sounded like. And I wonder if it's just like that, some sort of, what we refer to as the veil, or some sort of dimensional
That's what I'm thinking.
flux, that makes it sound like they're further away, or it's like comes as like a whisper. It's very
There's a
strange.
different vibration over there.
Yeah, and again, like I said, that's one of those things earlier that we might not understand why until we're on the opposite side of that veil.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving along, we have one more.
How many more do we have?
We have one more single one, and then we have a whole bunch from Dunlora.
That was their call.
Do you think it would be a good idea to take a quick break? Take grab a fresh beverage, use restroom break, and we'll come back and finish them up?
Yeah, if you need to take a break, go for it.
So how about we just run like a quick ad?
We'll do a be
Everyone
right
mute
back
themselves on Discord.
Be right back scene.
Yep, I could use a new beverage and a quick stop. So
Okay.
And we're already we're normally at a point where we start wrapping up, but we still got so much
Yeah.
to get to, and I don't want to skip any of it.
I mean, we're only about halfway through the EVPs, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll just go ahead and do all the
Sorry.
done.
Maybe too much. I'm
We'll
sorry.
do
No,
the done Laura
it's
ones
great.
when we come back
Yeah.
from the break.
No, it's cool.
Okay, I'm gonna do
Excellent.
be right back and run a little ad, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to The Witching Hours. You can visit our social media at facebook.com. Follow Medium Jenny Lee on Twitter and YouTube, which contains videos related to mediumship, tarot, and general weirdness. You can follow Giant of the Frost at Twitter and Frost Giant Rune and Tarot, where you can find personalized rune and tarot readings. Past episodes of The Witching Hours can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many other places you listen to your podcasts. Now, back to The Witching Hours.
We're back.
Hey, we're back.
Hooray! We
are
have returned.
Thanks for that.
I've been sick and I'm staying well hydrated.
Good.
It's just the consequence of that.
Oh yeah. Have to relieve the internal pressures.
And one break in like a 2-hour plus show now, maybe, like back in the day, everyone has a good, when I used to listen to this stuff on the radio, we'd get maybe like 3 hours of a show and an hour and a half of it was commercials. So
Yeah.
that's not bad at all. As soon as John or Lynn were getting ready to say something good, I'd say, hold on to that thought. And we'll get right back to it after
Yeah.
the break. And you'd have to sit for like 15 minutes of AM radio commercials,
All right, and I will say this, Keisha. Yes, I agree. We definitely have to get them to come on to an investigation with us.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
I would love it. I would love it.
And we learned a lot of things about what not to do with as a medium in investigating with our previous group. So
Yeah. Which is how you learn.
yeah.
We figured it out. It's just our group never did anything again really after COVID. So by the time we figured it out, it was like,
Yeah.
we know what to
Never-
do next time, and there kind of wasn't a next time.
Never had a
so.
chance to practice it.
And that's an interesting point because, we noticed that as well during COVID, whenever the kind of like investigations, public investigations or everything, we actually kind of got it's kind of a reset period for a lot of these locations that we would go to and investigate on a regular basis because people weren't going to them.
Yeah.
When we went back in there, it was like the activity just was at an all-time high it's like, hey, welcome back. Oh, I remember y'all.
Yeah.
What do you want to do now?
Yeah. It's like they missed the interaction.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting. All right.
we have a bunch of EVPs from a place called Dunlora. Will you tell us about this
Dunlora.
interesting place?
Dunlora is in the Dunlora. Wow. Dunlora is in the middle of nowhere. It is in a little town in Virginia, probably Central Virginia, called Mineral.
Near Charlottesville.
It's about 30 minutes from Charlottesville.
That's
in the middle of nowhere.
not far
It's
from
cool,
us.
It's cool, but there
That's-
was a lot of traffic.
When you said the middle of nowhere,
We knew
you had to be
exactly where it
speaking about
was.
Where we live.
We know exactly where Mineral is.
So Mineral's kind of unique in the fact that it was a mining town, hence Mineral. It was also, remember a few years ago, it was also the epicenter of the big earthquake that hit Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mineral was the epicenter. One of our good friends, Sheena Wong, purchased this property and did a to the stud, basically, restoration of this place. Back to as original as possible. Original floors in there, original woodwork around the doors, original built-ins, things like that. Turned it into a bed and breakfast. So yes, you can go stay there. But what we have learned is that the Dunlora Inn has been a inn the majority of its life. So during the restoration period, Sheena found the actual guest book, the sign-in for the Dunlora Inn, dating back to the early 1930s.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I love to look at it, and I hope she's not listening because I'm not supposed to look at it. It's so fragile. But last time I was there, I picked it out and looked at it and was just going through looking at the names of all the people that had been there back in the 30s, 31, 32. that came through there. Well, a little thing called prohibition happened, right? Basically, no fun was allowed to be had by anyone according to the government. So you couldn't drink, and when you're in a mining town, that's kind of something people want to do. So we feel like that the Dunlore was a speakeasy on top of its normal day-to-day operations as a boarding house. And then we've also learned and believe that in relation to the speakeasy, there was also a special area that you could go to, and that it operated as a brothel in at least one room. And I would probably say back in the 30s.
There's also the history there too. The two owners, that there was a lovers triangle, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's the story there about the lovers triangle. Was it the mistress that was shot, or the wife? Anyway, someone was shot. So there's a lot of stories. There's the servant's son as well who served there. So I don't know. It just has a big history. But like you said, those are the more predominant ones. But then keep in mind, you've got all these other smaller. Well, not the lovers triangle. That's not really small if someone got murdered. But you've got these other stories. So everything's all intermingled. And then there's a gentleman there that we really don't know his place at all. I don't think even Sheena knows. He's just there. And then they've seen Native American spirits there as well.
Wow.
So it's all over the place.
A lot of different stuff going on.
It always seems like when we get there, it's really quiet until we start talking about kind of the whiskey and the alcohol and the fun activities that occurred. And the way the house is set up is really unique, and it kind of aligns. So when you walk into the main portion of the house, there's this extravagant wide entryway where people would have checked in. And you walk up the stairs, and there's 3 rooms up at the top that you would imagine would probably be the boarding rooms, right? For honest to God business people or whatever that are traveling to the area that need somewhere to stay. Then on the back side of the house, coming in from the kitchen, there is this very narrow staircase that leads up the back to a very small bedroom and a hallway that's kind of away from everything else. Like, it's separated from the house. So it kind of makes sense to me that if you were going to run a brothel and a bordello brothel and a speakeasy, that you would want them separated from your guests. You'd bring them in the back and up the stairs for their fun time, and then out the back so that they weren't really necessarily mingling with the actual guests. And, we've had I've gone up there and said, hey, what is this room used for? And it's just like, sex. I mean, because we get an EVP, it says sex. And we're like, oh, well, it kind of eliminates to it. And no matter what we do, when we go in there and start investigating, it'll be quiet. And I'll just be like, who wants to drink a whiskey? And everything will just go and just start going off. And we'll sit there and have a party with the spirits.
Wow.
Well, that's what it started with, is being there earlier in July. I think we were filming there, and I just told Lyle, the owner, I said, even though if we do this off camera, I said, go feeding into what he was saying. So let's do a shot. Let's ready to do a cheers and see what happens. And it was off the chart after that. And so when the EVPs that you're going to play is actually a private investigation where we took some of our friends to rent the rooms because they've always wanted to do an investigation with us. And so I said, let's see if we can recreate it. And sure enough, the minute you say, hey, we're going to raise, here's your shot glass right here, and we're going to raise a toast to you, it was just crazy. But except for that one man, he wasn't too happy.
And when your moderators is right, it's very close to the nuclear power plant at Lake Louise, or at Lake Anna.
Lake Anna, yeah. All right, let's play one of these drinking EVPs here.
You like gin?
Play it again.
You like gin?
Very clear. Very clear. Yes, she does like gin.
It's almost like she says, yes, sir. Like, yes, yes, sir. Like almost like a little Southern lady.
Yeah, and
Yes, sir.
and it's just whatever, for whatever reason, and whenever we start talking about the alcohol, the spirits just come out there.
Spirits like the spirits.
I mean, I've sent you a few things. I don't think that you're going to actually play, like the spirit box sessions, but one of the things I was like, what do you got to drink? What does a guy got to do to get a drink around here? And you hear a male voice say whiskey.
Yeah.
And do you have time for a funny story there?
Of course.
So with the bra or with the speakeasy, there was always a code word to get into the brothel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would have this code word. We, for the longest time, were getting this particular word that we can only like we've asked, what's the secret word? And apparently, what we believe the secret word to get into the speakeasy was butt plug.
But now what you think?
Because we were getting like this word, butt plug. It just repeated itself over and over again in our sessions and everything. And then everybody's immediately thinking to where you're going, and I'm going to tell you right now, but when you barrel whiskey to age it, you put it in the barrel.
Uh-huh.
The butt plug is the cork that you put in the top of the barrel.
Yeah.
And the hole that you put the butt plug in is called the bung hole. So you put the butt plug in the bung hole. But it ties into, I know it, look, I see you, I'm watching the screen. It ties into the whole whiskey making and the aging process through the oak barrel with the sealing the barrel. So for the longest time, we affiliated that with the brothel.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way. Like there has to be something else. And finally, we put two and two together and be like, they got to be talking about the prohibition
the
aspect
plug of the whiskey barrel. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Right. And if you think I'm lying, I see you, chat. I see you. Google it. Carefully Google it.
Carefully Google it.
But if you Google whiskey barrel butt plug, you'll see what I'm talking about. Don't Google butt plug, because you're not going to get what you think. I don't want to get anybody fired, but yeah.
But it makes sense it was a code word, because I can't tell you how many investigations everybody got off on the other tangent, right? Like, and just went right there without getting permission. And anytime they say, I got $20, what do I get? And it'd say butt plug. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want that.
Pay for that.
And they go, but then once the person, he actually said the word butt plug, then the interaction got interesting, because he said, what can he was actually laying money down.
Yeah.
He goes, how much would it, is it 20? And at first it said 20. He goes, okay, I'll put 20 down. He put $20 down, and the next reply says 50. He goes, 50. And then everybody kept going, butt plug.
Yeah.
So it's like it made sense that it was the code word. So it was very entertaining.
At least we're hoping that's what it is. That's the story.
So funny. Yeah.
It was very entertaining.
But we've gone in there and we've put REM pods touching shot glasses and things like that to get in there.
All the shot glasses.
It's incredible, the activity that we get when we're talking about whiskey.
Well,
and we actually got a name.
And sex.
We actually got a name there, which was so George was the owner, and his son was 16 when he was killed at the hardware store down the road. He was helped building the inn, but he died in an explosion at the warehouse.
Wow.
The store down the road, and he was George Jr. And we were drinking one night, and we were doing the whole, mimicking like the shot and stuff. And we were asking who we were talking with, and it was very clear, George Jr. Like, no.
Wow.
And it's one of our favorite places. And we do have an event. We do have a 100 Nights Paranormal event coming up there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
With Chris and Mike from the Road Chasers.
Yep.
Did anybody Google it?
Did anybody Google it?
Well, let's play the whiskey one then.
Whiskey. Okay.
So this will be the spirit box. So it'll have the white noise stuff going on. But we've talked about it enough now. We're just going to have to play it.
Around here, get a drink.
Uh-oh. Ladies, you have a visitor knocking. It's him. It's him. Hey.
Yeah, I just sat down.
He's really knocking.
That's my man. Don't you touch him.
Ladies, you have a visitor. What is that?
Vixen? Is that what
I thought it said whiskey.
Whiskey or whiskey?
Would you like some whiskey, or do you want me to give him some whiskey?
All right, I'm going to play that little part again.
What is that?
Vixen?
All right, hold on. Oh, back it up a little bit more. Here we go.
What is that?
Whiskey. Just from the little bit I know of you, John, I was like, that's your ghost right there, man. The whiskey.
I think you're right. I don't go in there now without a little bit of whiskey. So, and again, that is the like I was talking about earlier. We're playing the spirit box. That did not come from the spirit box.
Yeah.
That was a white noise, audible voice phenomenon. So we all heard that. But when you go back and you listen to that, you don't hear the skipping, the interfering of that word at all. It's just the white noise pulled that out and made it audible for everyone.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, so.
All right.
And Sheena doesn't mind, I don't think, that we go in there and have a.
Well, she's hilarious. She'll laugh about it too. And we talk about speakeasy and we talk about it being all this. She just laughs because there's the whole like I said, the rampage of history with it. So that's just one part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have some more from the Dunlora. Mixed use building.
Mixed use. Yeah.
Multi-use.
Yeah.
What is that? Multi-use zoned.
Yeah. All right. Let's play another one.
How many are allowed upstairs at once? It should be.
Let's play it again.
How many are allowed upstairs at once? It should be.
So, what do you guys think that says there? Because I clearly hear it.
Yeah. I hear it, but I can't make it out.
But I can't tell what it's saying. What do you guys think?
If you're talking to us or chat.
Whoever.
I don't know which one that is.
How many are allowed upstairs? Sylvie says she just hears shh.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Just a shush.
I hear like a shh. It's very audible. Mm-hmm. Like the loudness of it is very audible.
It might not translate well coming through the audio, but we did hear this shh. But under that, we heard 3.
Oh.
All right. Play it one more time.
Let's play it again.
How many are allowed upstairs at once? It should be.
Yeah, there is another word there. Let's do it. We're going to do it again.
How many are allowed upstairs at once? Which is fine. 3 is fine. It should
What, to be allowed upstairs?
3.
For the size of the room, 4 is a crowd.
Anybody? Sounds like anybody. Anybody's allowed upstairs. If you know the secret word and you got that $50, anybody is allowed upstairs.
You know, the special knock. Yeah.
The word of the day is butt plug.
Yeah.
And that's it's a very unique room too, in the fact that like we've actually, like when we've stayed there, we stayed in that room one night. And then we had Chris
with us who stayed in what's called the porch room, which is an adjacent room to the bedroom that we
Which
stayed
is weird
in,
and
the sex room. But at 4 o'clock in the morning or so, we heard the front door of the inn open and slam. And I said, it woke us up, and I was like, "There's no way Sheena's here." And then the next thing you know, from where the door woke us up, in Kristen's room, we hear a woman go, "Well, hello there."
No, she's not like Mrs. Doubtfire. She goes, yeah, she had that accent. She goes, well, hello there.
Wow.
Okay.
It was also loud enough to wake Kristen up because we went, "Kristen?" And she went, "Yeah." You could tell that she's a little freaked out too. And I was like, was that the madam? Was that somebody at Ryan?
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Well,
Karen.
it's interesting. Just a little bit of history I want to bring up because we're not very far from where that is. In the county we live in, one of the sheriffs at this county was actually went out to put some moonshiners out of business that were making whiskey here and distributing it. When they went out there, the sheriff with a bunch of his deputies, they got in a shootout, and the sheriff was actually killed, and some of the deputies were killed when they went out. So it makes me kind of wonder if the whiskey they had
Wasn't from
was coming from the same people nearby who were making that whiskey, because obviously it wasn't too far away, so you figure close distribution. So that's interesting. Interesting.
good old Orange County whiskey.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's play another one. Here we go. Maybe. There we go. All right, we're going to play that again. This one creeps me out, man. Okay. Like, what the hell is that?
It sounds like the goats from Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not the first person to say that.
We all went to the Taylor Swift song. But that's not, we were talking, he was actually talking about that love triangle. We were talking about the murder. Talking about supposedly the wife was poisoned, right? By arsenic and stuff. And so I think you were sitting in the parlor talking about all that.
Yeah, so I was in the front parlor by myself. There was a group that was in what they call the TV room now, which is the room directly adjacent to that. There was a gentleman upstairs at the top of the stairs in one of the room, and Lynn and Kristen were in the blue room or the sex room, doing an EVP session up there. And then there were two people on the front porch. So when we heard those screams, I immediately got up. You heard the folks say, "What was that?" They were actually in the other room. I went upstairs thinking something was wrong. The guy that was in the first bedroom, I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Did you not hear the scream?" And he was like, "No, I didn't hear anything." So I went to the back room where Kristen and Lynn were and asked them the same thing. And they're like, "We didn't hear nothing."
No, but what we did hear is right before that is when we were in the room that we were in, we were getting the voices it kept saying danger, danger. Kristen was like, "What danger?" So we were getting a voice telling us danger, and we were trying to get more information about that. And then that's when apparently when we got that, it was about the same time that you heard the screaming loud.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I immediately started thinking about what could it logically be. And the first thing I thought of was it kind of sounded like a fox.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up in the country. I know what like a fox sounds like, and a fox can mimic like a scream.
Yeah.
Went out on the front porch, and there were two people out on the front porch smoking a cigarette. And I was like, "Did y'all by chance hear an animal or something that sounded like a scream?" And they were like, "No, we didn't hear anything." So
it
they
wasn't
didn't hear
from
that.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was a fox, I would imagine they would have probably heard it, especially as loud as it was inside.
Mm-hmm.
So only the people that were on the first floor heard that. That is exactly. So only the people that were on the first floor heard that. People on the second floor didn't, and people that were outside didn't. So we feel like it had to come
from inside,
from downstairs in that downstairs area.
That's crazy. All right, I want to
That
hear.
was the first thing. That was the first thing when we were listening to these last night. When we listened to that one, Jenny said, "Is that a fox?" And I was like, "Yeah, they probably would have known if it was a fox."
Well, as investigators, when you hear something out loud like that, that's the first thing that you want to do is try to logically figure out what it could have possibly been that was not paranormal.
Yeah.
And if I had walked outside and the people that were sitting out on the porch had told me, "Yeah, we heard that,"
we're like, "Oh, it's a fox."
I would immediately said, "Okay, that had to be a fox." Right? Because it sounds like it. But for them to say, there's two people, it's like, no, we didn't hear anything. And then play it back for them, and they're like, no, we heard nothing like that.
Wow.
And for it to come across that good on the recording, and for no one to have heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was actually captured on a GoPro audio.
I want to hear that one again. Let's play this one again. It's just so weird. Okay. It's so strange. It's just like, it kind of sounds like a woman screaming, but then it also just sounds so bizarre. That's a weird one.
And we've never experienced it again since.
One time. When Tenny was there. John Tenny was there.
Yeah,
I was in the room.
right,
and
John
I
Tenney.
got it with John.
Wow. Yeah, it has like an animalistic kind of sound, but then if it wasn't outside too, then where the hell did it come from? Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a bird squeaking. I believe that too, except it was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And there was no other bird sounds, and we were actually in the house. So that audio came from within the house itself.
All right, so we have two more from the Dunlora. I think I'm gonna save one for last because it opens up a whole nother can of worms. Okay, we're gonna do this one next. All right, this one's short, so we're gonna play it again. I'm gonna play it again. It's very short. So I hear "hey," and then what sounds like a frog noise. What do you guys hear? It's like "hey," and then some sort of like bleep, bleep.
Which one is that one called?
What do I get?
Oh, the one that was when you like, what do I get?
Let me listen to that one on my audio. Here.
Okay.
Because that was with our friends, so we were talking about the whole, get together.
Yeah.
Like, because it was me and another female. We're trying to see which one he wanted. He said my name, and then it was like Karen's like, well, I feel hurt or something. Then we're like talking about what do we get. I think that's from that night.
What do I get?
It's another one of those ones that's very audible, but it's like a loud whisper where you just can't.
Oh, okay. So the way it comes across to me is when we said, "What do I get?" It sounds like it says anything, but it's broken up into syllables.
Oh, okay. Anything. All right. Well, let's play it again then.
This is a really good deal.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna play it again. Yeah, I can kind of hear the any part at the beginning. That's Okay, we have one more. This is
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it can get weirder than the weird animal scream thing, but this one's really weird. Okay. I've almost found it. All right, here we go.
Or maybe maybe the man are upstairs, so he's upstairs.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again.
Or maybe maybe the man are upstairs, so he's upstairs.
Oh.
Or maybe
One more time.
maybe the man are upstairs, so he's upstairs.
So if you notice, like I said, that was with our friends. If you notice, we all went, oh,
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. That one.
It was because one, it did say, "Hey, Lynn," but it sounded just like him. For anybody who doesn't know John's voice, that's what freaked us out more than anything. It's like he was talking, and we were, "Hey, Lynn," and he said it sounds just like when he says, "Hey, Lynn," but we were talking about again. Hey, what do we do? What is it time for us to go upstairs? How do we know we're, like we're new here? All this stuff. And he's, "Hey, Lynn." That's why you hear everybody go, "What?"
Yeah. It's so weird.
We were talking about those right at the beginning. I think there's a couple of them in there that kind of mimic John. Yeah. Which is a whole another thing.
Now, this is I love you like a spirit saying, "Hey, Lynn."
I'm like, what does that mean? How can it mimic you? How can it make it sound
We
like?
heard that our friend said he heard a couple of times that night. He said, "I keep hearing them talk. That sounds like you guys."
Yeah. And we don't know. We don't, like I said, we don't know how they communicate or what it is. But we've captured so many different scenarios with EVPs. I've captured EVPs, and I think I sent it to you guys, and probably listened to it. And I know we don't want to review it tonight, but one of them was at Cold Harbor, where we cut our teeth. It was like January 1st. And we had just started investigating. We're walking around Cold Harbor battlefield with a K2 and an iPhone doing recordings. And we were referencing the lights on the K2. Lynn's like, "Can you make the lights light up?" And you hear a voice say, "They are pretty." But you hear it 3 times. It's like, it's real soft. It's like, "They are pretty." It says it 3 times, so it's almost like it's repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm to this day, I'm like, how in the world did it sound like it was just an echo that got progressively louder? Damn. So, I mean, there's so much that comes into play when you're doing these things, and so much that we don't understand with these EVPs.
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing is, like I said, even though that sounds like John, either it's you in a prior life, but it's the accents, right? Because we have gotten plenty of EVPs with accents, which to me, that is so fascinating, more than just a whisper, right? More than just like, "Hey," but we've gotten period time accents. We've gotten British, weird British, well, I call it British, but I've gotten that in the middle of the battlefield, pitch black, like midnight, 1 a.m. Where we were was so quiet. Like there was not even a cricket, and there's no cars. It was so quiet, and we're out in the middle of the battlefield. And I introduced myself as I'm Lynn, and this lady goes, "Hello, Lynn."
Yeah.
It was just like that. "Hello, Lynn."
Wow.
So it's to have these accents. I think and that's what maybe that was just that spirit's accent, or like you say, actually could mimic. I don't know. That was like, "Hey, Lynn." You hear John talking, so it's not him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why we all reacted like that. But yeah, we had fun.
Yeah. That one was crazy. It was like, you can hear what sounds like John say, "Hey, Lynn," but then he's also talking.
And he's already talking. Like the voices go over each other, but they're both John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we've explained that one quite a bit, let's play it one more time, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening here. Okay, let's play this one more time.
Or maybe maybe the man are upstairs, so he's upstairs.
Oh.
It's like, it sounds just like him. What the hell? It's craziness. It's crazy. I mean, it's exactly your voice. The inflection, the accent, like everything. It's just,
Maybe I just got that voice.
yeah.
But there was another one in that file that I clipped out that I told John, I said, it did it again. I said, does that not sound like you?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that play it. Like, I mean, we've heard people talk about doppelgangers. Like, and like I said, I mean, we don't know. That we've definitely encountered spirits that we feel are mimicking or mimics. That's a thing. Me and Lynn, up to that point, that was the most recent investigation that we did at Dunlora. Lynn and I had probably been to Dunlora 6 times prior to that investigating, so I really feel like the spirits there are very familiar with who we are. And then you've also got I mean, and if you really want to get crazy, right, just really want to get crazy, you've got that residual aspect, right? Is that me?
From like another time. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to,
You say it would still be residual, right? It was residual energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if it was you? Okay, now my brain has exploded.
Oh, no.
Right, yeah. More foul thoughts in my head. That's great.
Well, so do you guys know Howie O'Dell?
No.
What's the name again?
Howie?
No, I don't think we
The Ryan Effect. So we were recently on one of his podcasts, and we hear a lot about past life regression, right? Where people can read your previous lives. And I was like, well, you're looking at it like this. I said, but what if there's more to it? What if you can come back and have a past life, what's to say that this life that you're in right now isn't from the future?
Well, that's very interesting.
And then Howie went, oh my God, that just puts a whole different spin on things. But I was like, the greatest minds of our time, Einstein, and they weren't stupid when they were talking about like bendable space time. Is it possible that?
Yeah.
Who's to say that like someone from the future or the future us isn't coming back and we just don't realize it?
I mean, there is a theory that all time is happening at the same time.
Yeah,
So
it isn't linear.
yeah, it could
Well, most
be.
astrophysicists will say that time isn't linear.
Yeah.
That the past, present, and future are all happening together.
I actually just did Linguist won a past life video reading for me on our last challenge, but she asked for a future life reading, and I did it.
See?
Yeah. So I looked at a future life for her because, if all time is happening at the same time, then you would be able to tap into any timeline at any, future, present, past, whatever. Yeah.
But it's good. I think the theories that people come up with all the time, like one of my biggest theories is if everything is kind of in a wave, like light wave, sound wave thing, why is it you can go to a location, do an investigation and get tons of activity and then go back 2 weeks later and get absolutely nothing? And if you're thinking about it, if the veils are in a waveform, and the waves are actually moving kind of like this in a wave pattern, and then they cross. And right there in the middle is where we're able to communicate with the other side. And then when it breaks away, it's gone. Right? Until it crosses again. What if that kind of explains why sometimes we get crazy paranormal activity, and then next time we're out there we get nothing?
Yeah.
Well, that's great because that's exactly what this show is. This is the Halloween special, which Samhain and Halloween and all that stuff is what it's supposed to be when the curtain between those two things thin out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool theory. I like that too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think think we're going to have to start wrapping this up.
Yeah. We're headed towards 10:30.
Yep.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we had a good show. Thank you everyone for coming in and hanging out with us tonight, and for questions and all of those things. I just put the links back up, but because I know for future, make sure you visit facebook.com RVA Paranormal, and that you go to youtube.com RVA Paranormal, and you can check out videos of their investigations. Really good stuff on there. So make sure you go there and check that out. Give them a follow and catch up with them there if you feel so inclined.
Yep.
And yeah, if you guys have something going on, feel free to send us a message, and we would love to accompany you all.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you getting the new Ghostbusters game?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet, but any multiplayer game like that, I think I will be down for.
Give me a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I don't even think I've gotten to talk to you about that yet, but that's one for chat too, because we wanted to play Phasmophobia. And we'll still do that. We'll do that. We're gonna have a game night where we do Phasmophobia. But yes, Medium Generally, there's a new Ghostbusters game that's multiplayer.
Oh, good.
So yeah, we should
That'll be
definitely do
fun.
that for sure. That sounds great, John. I will get that, and I'll hit you up for
And
that.
Keisha has left us with the most important information of all for the evening. You kids, be careful when you look up whiskey butt plugs.
Yes.
And with that, I think we can leave it there.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Have a great day tomorrow. Be safe.
Yes. And
And
thank
I guess we
you.
will see everyone next time.
Thank
Yeah.
you, John
Thank
and
you.
Lynn, RVA Paranormal, for being on our official Halloween special 1-year anniversary of the Witching Hours.
Thank you for having
Happy
us.
anniversary.
It's special.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to The Witching Hours. You can visit our social media at facebook.com. Follow Medium Jenny Lee on Twitter and YouTube, which contains videos related to mediumship, tarot, and general weirdness. You can follow Giant of the Frost at Twitter, and Frost Giant Rune and Tarot, where you can find personalized rune and tarot readings. Past episodes of The Witching Hours can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many other places you listen to your podcasts.